We do start off with the horrific allegations at Michigan State University and against head football coach Mel Tucker. Let's go ahead and give you a timeline of all this. He has been suspended without pay for sexually harassing Brenda Taylor. She is a rape survivor and an activist who specifically talks with teams all around colleges and universities about sexual violence. And she was brought into Michigan State to talk to the team twice. This incident happened in April of 2022. Then Taylor made a Title IX report in December of 2022. The university appointed an investigator, and then she made her report in July. That investigator did. They have set a hearing for the beginning of October. We are learning more now that half of the Board of Trustees at Michigan State University did not know that this investigation was underway, but half of them did. There is a lot surrounding this, and all the details really came out on Sunday morning from that USA Today report. So I actually spoke with Kenny Jacoby. He specializes in this kind of reporting, in Title IX reporting, and also sexual harassment and assault cases at colleges and universities across the country, and he gives us a little bit of context. Kenny, obviously everyone is reading what you wrote, the report that came out on Sunday morning. Can you tell us initially how you got the tip on this? I know this is the kind of reporting that you specialize in.
Yeah, I don't want to go too much into the process of how we got the story, but I will say that Brenda is the one who contacted us about the piece, and then she shared the case documents with us that allowed us to write the piece.
What has the reaction been the last 24 hours?
I'm seeing a lot of outrage from students, people who work at MSU, alumni, and just community members in East Lansing. A lot of people are very upset that this seems to have the stench of a cover-up, given that this case has been going on for 8-9 months, and we are just hearing about it publicly for the first time yesterday. And then, of course, the suspension came down 9 months into the case. And so I think given all the issues that MSU has had with sexual misconduct over the years, this doesn't sit well with a lot of people that this is how it's coming out and that it's being handled this way.
The university knew that there was a Title IX investigation. Brenda made the report back in December, and then the findings came out in July from the investigator saying that there was going to be a hearing now in October. So MSU is saying that they knew all this but did not know the details?
Yeah, MSU, I believe, is saying that the top brass at the university knew that there was a Title IX case involving Mel Tucker, but they're saying that they did not know the details of that intentionally, that was withheld from them as sort of a standard protocol for keeping the confidentiality of the case while it's ongoing.
So then there's the question to the transparency then. So MSU says, oh, our hands were tied on this, or because that they knew that there was some kind of sexual harassment investigation going on, that there maybe should have been a suspension that straight off the bat before the football season even started, or once that report came out in July 25th?
Yeah, it is a complicated situation for MSU. I think, if they were to have suspended him at the onset of the investigation without giving any details about what is being alleged, that would just raise so many questions, and that it could draw attention to the case in a way that victims in these situations, complainants, don't always want. So I think it was a tough decision for MSU, and maybe they made the wrong decision, but that's what they did.
So where we stand right now and everything that has happened at Michigan State University and Larry Nassar, could they have done something different in this case?
It's hard to know. I think we won't know until the case is over, really. It seems like they, if their goal was to keep this on the down low and keep this, as confidential as possible throughout the case, well, they did a decent job of it for 9 months. However, it did leak out. The information did get out. And that is, what sort of prompted us to go with, to publish our story. And so I think there are a lot of questions still to be asked about, how this information was getting around when it was supposed to be within a small circle of people.
And then that leads to the question of saying, oh, we didn't know the details until your reporting came out on Sunday morning, when you're saying that, again, this had gotten around and this had started to leak out?
Yeah, there were a lot of rumors going around. And, we're hearing that other reporters were hearing about these sort of things. And so, yeah, some way, somehow, information was getting out that probably should not have gotten.
Kenny, there's still a lot of questions, or people have a lot of questions about Title IX and the processes that we have to go through this. Can you explain where we are in the process right now with this and what we can look forward to?
Yeah, of course. So the way these cases go, it starts with a fact-finding investigation. This is where an independent investigator came in, conducted interviews with both parties and the witnesses that Brenda had named, gathered evidence in the form of records from the university, obtained the cell phone records from each person and a lot of other documents that they handed over. That fact-finding portion of the case completed in July. And the way it used to work, the investigator would issue a finding herself in many cases. The way it works now under the newer Title IX regulations, in most cases, is that the investigator delivers just the facts to a neutral hearing officer. And that person is the one who decides whether or not Tucker violated the school's sexual harassment policies. So there's going to be a hearing, or at least there is a hearing planned for early October, in which both sides and their attorneys will be able to present evidence, to make arguments, to question witnesses. And once that process is done, I believe a final report will be written by the hearing officer, and that will contain their determination. There's an appeal process after that, but that is the crux.
And essentially that he violated university policy.
Yeah, he's charged with two potential violations. One, they're both under the same policy, but they're two different offenses alleged. One is sexual harassment and the other is sexual exploitation.
When you started working this story and then, eventually publishing when it came out on Sunday morning, does it ever cease to amaze you sometimes the details of some of these things, that these cases continue to happen in this regard? I think what is so staggering for a lot of people, and watching social media and even reaction from some of the Larry Nassar survivors saying it's taking a survivor to come forward and to talk about this, to be able to shed light on the process.
Yeah, it does and it doesn't, right? These cases are so common. We've been dealing with them for as long as I can remember. And the real tragedy of this case, I think, is that Brenda had come to MSU believing that she could help reform their campus culture around sexual violence. She has made her career out of turning her pain from her gang rape 25 years ago into purpose and that purpose is educating athletes and coaches specifically, but men more broadly, about sexual misconduct prevention, about victim blaming. And so she came to MSU with that purpose and ended up falling victim to the same system that she was trying to fix.
And that's what I think that horrifies me as well, is that I know that people will be blaming her today, and the back and forth of who to believe in this case. And when it comes down to also probably the worst judgment call Mel Tucker could have made.
Yeah, one thing I think it's important to note is there's no such thing as a perfect victim out there. There's no one way that a survivor is supposed to act or should act. And oftentimes it's out of their control. These are bodily responses. Some people have asked, well, why didn't she hang up on the phone? Mm-hmm. And I think her answer to that is that I froze. And that is not something that you can control. That is when your brain and your body take over the situation, and you almost start to dissociate as if you're watching what's happening to you. And so she felt like she didn't have any control over that moment, and didn't even occur to her at the time that she could hang up the phone. And so I think there's a lot of research that could be done by folks who are interested in this into the dynamics of trauma and the way
So can you then just tell us what we can look forward to as some of the reporting that you're going to be doing the next, couple of weeks or so and following us, and then everyone who's going to be watching this as well?
Yeah, I mean, there are still so many questions that need answering, and I imagine there are going to be lots of new developments. Obviously, the key one is going to be, do we make it to this hearing? Does this hearing happen? And if it does get to that point, is there enough evidence to find that Tucker violated school policy? The inherent nature of these cases is that there are often no eyewitnesses, no recordings. And so it is sort of a he said, she said in that regard. And so what happens is they often come down to whose account is more credible. And we know from the investigation report that the investigator found some pretty key inconsistencies in Tucker's account. So we'll see if that is enough, if we get to a hearing, to sway the case in Brenda's favor.
All right, Kenny Jacoby, thanks so much for joining me. Really appreciate your work, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Really a lot of good context there when you look at what is going to happen next. But there's still a lot of questions, and I think what people are talking about today is what the university knew, when they knew it, and what was their duty, if any, to come out publicly about this, even if they did not have the details. And that is what we're hearing that Michigan State is saying. They did know that there is going to be a Title IX hearing involving their head football coach.